tại Việt Nam trong những cái buổi tiếp xúc của ông ta đối với những sinh viên khách Việt Nam.
So I've taken a lot of your time. I appreciate your patience and I welcome your questions.
Đến đây thì chúng tôi xin cảm ơn quý vị, và nếu quý vị có những câu hỏi chúng tôi rất là
Vâng, thưa quý vị, bây giờ chúng tôi sẽ bắt đầu cái phần câu hỏi. Trước đó thì chúng tôi xin vài phút thôi là quý vị trong giới truyền thông báo chí, chúng tôi xin được phép ưu tiên cái phần câu hỏi này cho các vị quan khách, vì sau cái buổi thao hoa này chúng ta sẽ có một cái phòng dành riêng cho giới báo chí truyền thông để có một cái cuộc họp báo, và quý vị có thể đặt câu hỏi đó để mà chúng ta cố gắng dành cái thời gian càng nhiều càng tốt cho các vị tham dự ngày hôm nay. Ladies and gentlemen, member of the press, we have a press availability time right after this town hall, so we'd like to prioritize and give as much time after this Q&A session to our general audience. So if you're a member of the press, if you can hold off your question, if there's later we have time, we'll take your question or we'll take it in the press conference time. I see the hand of Mr. Lowenthal here. We'll have a wireless mic go around so you can ask your question.
Thank you. Good Ambassador, my name is Lowenthal. I represent COVA, stand for Coalition of Veteran Vietnamese. I have one question to ask you. As you know, the Vietnamese communists continue to violate human rights, and the United States, in position, particularly in Vietnam, is still insist that Vietnam government comply and keep their off of CCP. I would like to know why. Secondly, are you aware of the Coastline Michael Sita seems to be in corruption, investigated for his corruption? Will his corruption impact decision to keep Vietnam off the CPC list?
Good question. Good question.
Right. Let me answer your first question, your second question first. An American foreign service officer who worked in the consulate section in Consulate General Saigon was recently arrested, and I'm not able to discuss it, and it related to his issuance of visas, and I'm not allowed to discuss the details of this case because it's an ongoing investigation by the Department of Justice. But with regard to the subject, of visa malfeasance, consular malfeasance, we take this very seriously. We do everything we can to try to prevent it. When we find it, we prosecute it.
Thưa quý vị, về vấn đề mà cái người mà chúng tôi muốn nói đến đó, thì ông đoàn sứ cũng đã kể sơ sơ thôi. Thì ông có nói là cái vấn đề mà giả mạo những cái visa là một cái điều mà vô cùng quan trọng, và khi mà được phát hiện đều được giải quyết một cách rất là rõ ràng và nhanh chóng.
I do not expect that this case will affect the refusal rate for visa applicants in Saigon.
Và chúng tôi không nghĩ rằng là cái vụ này nó sẽ ảnh hưởng đến cái vấn đề mà cấp visa hoặc là từ chối những cái visa trong tương lai.
The second part of that latter part of the question related to countries of particular concern, right? Yes. On religious freedom. Yes. Good. We took, as you all know, we took Vietnam off the countries of particular concern list in 2006, and we thought through this very hard, and we took Vietnam off for two reasons. One is because at that time we engaged Vietnam in a very vigorous discussion of freedom of religion. We're still doing that, and we we noticed, and as a result of that discussion, we witnessed some improvements in religious freedom in Vietnam. The second reason we took them off the list was because the law, the International Religious Freedom Law, defines requirements for inclusion on the countries of particular concern list very, very narrowly. And we believe that despite all the problems in Vietnam with regard to religious freedom, we believed that Vietnam did not meet the requirements of the law. Now, this doesn't mean we're not paying attention to this issue. We are paying very, very close and strong attention to this issue.
Kính thưa quý vị, vấn đề là đưa tên Việt Nam vào danh sách CPC thì ông có giải thích rằng là Hoa Kỳ đã lấy tên Việt Nam ra khỏi vào năm 2006 vì đại khái là hai cái lý do khác nhau. Thứ nhất là vấn đề mà lúc đó trong thời gian đó Hoa Kỳ và Việt Nam cũng đã có một số những cái qua lại có qua lại về vấn đề mà những cái diễn tiến về vấn đề tự do tôn giáo tại Việt Nam, và về cái khía cạnh của Hoa Kỳ thì họ đã chứng nhận là có một số những cái diễn tiến rất là tốt, tiến triển tốt ở tại Việt Nam. Và thứ hai nữa là về cái vấn đề mà những cái luật trong cái CPC nó rất là nó có một số những cái hạn chế về luật pháp, cho nên dựa theo đó thì Hoa Kỳ mới quyết định lấy tên của Việt Nam ra khỏi cái danh sách CPC. Tuy vậy đó, nhưng cái vấn đề mà theo sát về vấn đề mà những cái diễn tiến tự do tôn giáo tại Việt Nam là vẫn tiếp tục ngày hôm nay chứ không phải là không có.
Let me describe for you some of the ways in which we engage the Vietnamese on the subject of religious freedom. Shortly after my arrival in Vietnam, I visited Cardinal Mike in Saigon. I stay in close touch with the Archbishop of Hanoi, and I have met with the Bishop of Vinh as well, Bishop Hup. And there's a story to that. I visited Vinh in Nghệ An province in September of last year, if my memory serves. And before I went, I requested a meeting with the Bishop of Vinh.
Để chúng tôi có thể chia sẻ với quý vị là những cái tiếp xúc của đại sứ cũng như của Hoa Kỳ đối với Việt Nam trong vấn đề tôn giáo. Khi mà ông lãnh chức, một trong những vấn đề ông làm đầu tiên là gặp gỡ một số nhà lãnh đạo trong giáo phận Công giáo và đặc biệt tại giáo phận Vinh, và ông đã đích thân gặp Đức ông tại Vinh trong tháng 9 trong năm vừa qua.
And when I arrived in Vinh, I was told that the bishop was unavailable and that I couldn't meet him.
Khi mà chúng tôi đến Vinh thì được báo là Đức ông không gặp được.
I had a 2-day schedule in Vinh, but I decided that because I couldn't meet with the bishop, that I would meet only with the chairman of the People's Committee, that I would tell him how irritated I was that I couldn't meet the bishop, and then I went home to Hanoi. I didn't even wait for my plane. I got in a car and I drove to Hanoi.
Chúng tôi rất là không được vừa lòng khi biết là không được gặp Đức ông tại Vinh. Thì khi mà đến đó thì có chương trình là phải ở lại Vinh 2 ngày, nhưng chúng tôi yêu cầu là gặp với cái người lãnh đạo tại địa phương, và chúng tôi có chứng tỏ rằng là không được vừa lòng, cũng rất là bất đồng là không được gặp đích thân với Đức ông, và quay về lại Hà Nội liền, chứ không có đợi cho một cái chiếc cho máy bay mà lên xe trở về Hà Nội lập tức.
I visited house churches in Dien Bien province. The first time an American ambassador had visited Dien Bien in 7 years. I visited both Protestant and Catholic, unregistered Protestant and Catholic house churches in Dien Bien. My staff and I are meeting with religious figures and religious activists all the time.
Quý vị, chúng tôi cũng như nhân viên của chúng tôi đều gặp với những người nhà lãnh đạo nhân quyền cũng như tôn giáo rất là thường xuyên.
We're engaging on this issue with the Vietnamese government all the time.
Chúng tôi tiếp xúc với nhà nước Việt Nam về vấn đề tự do nhân quyền thường xuyên.
Next question.
if I may, Tyler Deer, former council member from City of Westminster, and if I may direct this question to both of you. Vietnam is currently making a bid to get appointed to the United Nations Human Rights Council for the 2014-2016 term. Do you believe that Vietnam deserves to be on this council, and can we expect the U.S. government to oppose this bid?
We oppose it.
I oppose it. I am sure my colleagues in the Congress oppose it. Congressmember Royce and Congresswoman Sanchez, we oppose it. They should not, with such flagrant human rights violations, they should not be rewarded.
Let me introduce myself. My name is Ha Tran, Vice President of the Vietnamese American Federation of Southern California. My president is not being able to come today, so I am here on his behalf, and also on behalf of the Vietnamese community. First of all, I would like to thank Congressman Lowenthal for organizing this town meeting for our people to raise our voice to our ambassador to Vietnam. And I would like to thank you, Honorable Ambassador, for serving United States very diligently in Vietnam, and appreciate all of your activities in helping the Vietnamese people to gain freedom and democracy. You just mentioned that one of the efforts of the American Embassy in Vietnam is to work with the Vietnamese government to solve the problem of South Sea. South Sea. No, not China. South Sea. East Sea. And West Sea for the Philippines.
Right.
Yeah. And now you are aware that there's having one summit meeting next week between President Obama and the chairman of the Communist Party of China. So, do you think that during such summit meeting they are going to have some consensus or some compromise to solve the problem of peace in Vietnam? And I would appreciate if Mr. Congressman Lowenthal can join the Vietnamese community in our rally this coming Friday and Saturday at Palm Springs. Thank you.
We're very concerned about rising tensions in the South China Sea. And I use South China Sea because that's the official American designation for that feature. But we're very concerned about rising tensions in the South China Sea. We would be extremely concerned should any party claiming parts of the South China Sea resort to violence in order to pursue their claims. We would be very concerned by that. We support a strong multilateral effort to reduce tensions in the South China Sea and to manage this problem. We support the 2002 Declaration of Conduct among the parties. We support the negotiation of a code of conduct among the claimants in the South China Sea, which is basically a set of rules of the road for claimants to avoid raising tensions. We do not support any particular country's claims. That would be very difficult for us to do. But we do support peaceful resolution of this conflict. We do support negotiations among China and the ASEAN countries. And again, we would be very, very concerned by the resort to force in this area.
Có hai vấn đề bên khía cạnh của Hoa Kỳ là thứ nhất là không ủng hộ một quốc gia gì hết. Thứ hai nữa đó là sẽ không ủng hộ những vấn đề mà cái sự giải quyết một cách rất là bất bạo động. thì về vấn đề mà cái khía cạnh của Hoa Kỳ sẽ không ủng hộ riêng một quốc gia nào trong cái vùng đó, thì họ sẽ khuyên là Trung Quốc cũng như các nước ASEAN nên bàn thảo làm sao để có một cái giải quyết rất là bất bạo động.
I think I have the mic. Good afternoon.
Sorry to interrupt you quick. I do want to say that I have a really long list of people that I'm seeing hands, so I would just ask if those who ask questions, if you can keep it short, and if Ambassador, if you can keep your answer brief as well. Thank you.
Ambassador, bienvenidos a Westminster. I'm here in the capacity as a journalist as well as a concerned citizen. 25 years ago, I was a human rights activist at UC Irvine with Project who helped to resettle hundreds of thousands of Vietnamese refugees. 38 years later, we're now seeing a new wave of Vietnamese refugees leaving Vietnam for the fact that there's economic issues and there's human rights violations. I'm also very good friends with Loretta Sanchez's top person who really helped you. And she and I share our concerns about, you say we have leverage, the U.S. does. But within this year, we've seen many of our country folks in Vietnam being imprisoned for outrageous sentences. What would you tell Vietnamese Americans, human rights activists, and what would you tell the young students concerned about human rights? What can we do to help get the word out that this is not tolerable? Because you say you took Vietnam off in 2006. So the question is, I hear a lot of wonderful steps to healing. I'm also a physician very concerned about the healing process of the Vietnamese-American relationship. What are we tangibly able to do to help those who are Vietnamese that are in prison? Richard Nguyen is free because he's an American citizen. He and I feel helpless about what our compatriots in Vietnam can do. It's a big question, I'm sorry, and time is important, but I think this is the issue why many of us are here today.
You're not helpless.
Well, some days we feel
As I said, the Vietnamese American community has a very strong voice. And you also have very strong representation in Congress. When Congressman Lowenthal, Royce, Congressman Rohrbacher, Congressman Sanchez speak, we listen. And we listen good. Congressman Wolf, Congressman Connors from Northern Virginia, when they speak, we listen.
But a year ago, Congressman Wolf felt that you didn't do enough, quick enough to help Richard Nguyen get freedom. It took him 9 months to be freed, and he's an American citizen. I really welcome you here, but you know what I'm asking.
I wish he'd been out a lot sooner than that. We did everything we could to get him out of jail as quickly as possible, and we're glad he could. And we're glad he's out.
You asked what we can do together now, and I think what we need to do is to come up with a plan of what we can do. There are a couple of things. I'm working with Congressman Royce, and I'm the original co-sponsor of the Vietnam Human Rights Act. We have to pass that. I will work hard to send the message from both the House of Representatives and the United States Senate, and to have the President sign it, to declare that to talk about the human rights violations and let that be the official position of the United States government. Second, if Vietnam now wants to join the Trans-Pacific Partnership, they want this. This is our opportunity now for people to write to me, call me, and say, you cannot let Vietnam join the Trans-Pacific Partnership without changing their human rights activity. That is what we have to do. That is critical now. We work together. This is a critical moment, as the ambassador has said, that we have leverage at this time, and it is important that we do not miss this opportunity, because this is the time when everybody will be listening, because we want something and we want something, and this is the time that we should not be allowing them, just like not to join the United Nations that they should not be allowed to join and get economic benefits without having religious freedom, without having freedom of association, and without courts improperly and not imprisoning people just for their political activism. That cannot be tolerated, and we have an opportunity now to all come together and demand this at this moment.
Thank you.
Morning, Ambassador. My name is Chương. I am president of Vietnam Human Rights Network. 4 months ago, back to February, together with some human rights activists in Vietnam, we send you a thank you letter recognizing your effort in helping Vietnamese dissidents in Vietnam. And in your reply email message to Dr. Chương in Virginia, you told us that you will be back to the States in August. But today you are here already. So sooner or later, because we are eager to meet with you. So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you again for what you have done to promote human rights cause and to defend human rights activists in Vietnam. And secondly, I would like to let you know that we are very disappointed with the State Department current report on religious freedom in Vietnam and the decision not to put Vietnam back to the CPC list. You know well that the human rights situation in Vietnam, particularly religious freedom, has gone from bad to worse during recent years. Just last week, 8 Montagnards were sentenced to 63 years in prison for their ethnic minority and for their religious belief. And this document prepared by Vietnam Human Rights Network will provide you with helpful insight into the current situation. And I'm very pleased to give it to you. And last but not least, Mr. Ambassador, I believe that you could and should do more to promote our country's core values: liberty, democracy, and human rights, and to defend those who are defending those values. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I still plan to be in Northern Virginia in August, and I look forward to meeting with our Vietnamese American friends in Northern Virginia at that time. I will read the report with great interest. Thank you very much.
Mr. Ambassador, I will make it short because I know a lot of people have the question. I have one question and one suggestion, but I'm glad the young lady there just asked the question, and you and Congressman did address. What can we do in order to help you to expand, for human rights? And I think both of you addressed that. So I just make this suggestion that first of all, I know you and your college, your former college, have made a good progress in human rights issue in Vietnam. But there's still a lot of activity to be done. And I know that you have a limitation, but I hope with your power, you will advance, continue fight for human rights in Vietnam, and especially for the people who have been in prison right now, and make sure they are in safety. Thank you.
I hear you.
Dear Mr. Ambassador, I'm speaking here on behalf of the U.S. citizen as well as resident of Garden Grove City. also as an activist in the Vietnamese community from 3 decades ago. My concern is, it seems to me that the U.S. consulate in Ho Chi Minh City, as well as the embassy in Hanoi, are trying to cover up all the human rights violations and oppressions in Vietnam. Like the hiding of the big scandal just being exploded lately in the non-immigration visa bribery scam in the Consulate General of Ho Chi Minh City, involving Mr. Michael Sesta. Due to so many and continuous violations and oppressions in religious and human rights in Vietnam, I wonder why Vietnam was not put back to CPC list, because they didn't do any progress in human rights. Don't let me think that the U.S. State Department and especially the U.S. Embassy in Vietnam ignored or forgot about the principle for human rights issues set up by the founding fathers of this great country in the Constitution in 1776.